Hello, my name is Anna and I love trying vintage recipes. So today I'm trying 3 dishes from the 1980s. Today's recipes come to us from Recipes from Minnesota with Love. This book was originally published in 1981, and we'll talk more about it a little bit later. And before you go after me saying, the 1980s, that's not vintage, I regret to inform you that it is. How do I know? I was born in 1981, so we're talking like 44 years, about 45 years ago. Sorry if you didn't already know that or you disagree with it. 1981 is indeed vintage. So I have always felt a bit of a connection with Minnesota because it is also a Midwestern state. I think Ohio and Minnesota, we share some characteristics, we share some personality traits, maybe a little bit of an accent. I don't think my accent is as thick as a Minnesota accent, but some of you have told me lately that you really like to hear me talk and you like my accent, which I think has only gotten worse over the years as I work at home by myself most of the time. I'm not around other people. I'm just listening to myself most of the time and getting deeper and deeper in that Midwestern sound. I found recipes in here. Some of them were very familiar to me just because of that Midwestern connection. So I can't wait to show you what I selected. We're still having very cold weather here, and during cold weather, I always want to make soup, so I thought I would give this German potato soup a try. I think a lot of the potato soup recipes that we see nowadays, and like the potato soup that you might order in, say, a restaurant, a lot of times they're like very cheesy, like very flavorful in your face, like a loaded baked potato. This is much, much simpler than that. You know, it's got like milk and butter, you know, some onion, things like that. So it's pretty simple. It kind of reminds me of the potato soup that I ate growing up, except when we made potato soup at home, a lot of times we would have rivels in it. Rivels are what I would describe as like dough crumbles. So usually irregular in size, little pieces of like dumpling dough, sort of like a rustic noodle. This doesn't have those in it, but some interesting things about this recipe. You use shredded potatoes, cooked and shredded potatoes, and there's an egg yolk in it. I don't know that I have ever made a potato soup with an egg yolk in it, so I think it's used as maybe a little bit of thickening, but we'll see how this one turns out. I started by melting 2 tablespoons of butter in a saucepan. I think this is my 3-quart, and I have an onion that I've chopped fine. The recipe calls for a medium onion. I'd say that my onion was a little bit on the smaller side. So I'm gonna let this cook for a minute or two, then I'm gonna add my garlic. All right, my onion is starting to soften, so now I'm gonna add my garlic. I don't love adding garlic and onion together because the garlic cooks faster when you, like if it's minced garlic, and sometimes it can burn. So I like to give the onion a little bit of a head start. The recipe says 1 clove of garlic. That is what I'm going with. I know a lot of people who love garlic, and you know, you can put more in if you want. I just want to try it as it says in the recipe. So I'm gonna let this cook for a little bit longer before I move on. I believe my onion is now pretty golden. It says to cook until golden. So now I'm gonna add my tablespoon of flour, and I'm going to stir that until it is smooth. Next up, I'm adding the potatoes. To prepare the potatoes, I just boiled them. I peeled them, I boiled them. I cooked them until they were most of the way done, but I didn't want them to be super soft because I still had to grate them, which is what I did on my box grater. I decided to wear a glove to do this, like a cutting glove, just, you know, to make it a little bit safer for me to grate these very soft potatoes. But you can see, like, you can still make out the individual pieces of potato. They're not completely like mashed potato. So this is what I got, 2 cups of cooked and grated potatoes. You also have to cook this for like 2 minutes, which is another reason I didn't want to cook these to absolute mush. Next I'm going to add my milk gradually. I actually got a whisk to do this. I just thought it would work a little better. I also had another thought about the potatoes while I was cooking them for a couple minutes. I'm guessing you could probably use frozen hash brown potatoes that you've thawed, you know, because that's kind of, you know, they're cooked and they're grated. I'm still working my way through that giant bag of 10-pound bag of potatoes I got at Meijer the other week. I think I mentioned that a couple of videos ago. We're still at it. We're still trying to use it. Oh yeah, this is thickening up nicely because of that flour and butter. Woo, enthusiasm. Enthusiastic whisking. Look at all of this. What is my problem today? Oh my goodness. But once again, my induction cooktop wipes clean very easily. I know they're not for everyone, And some people were even kind of unhappy when I switched to an induction cooktop, but man, does this thing clean up so easily. And I make messes, so. All right, I'm just waiting for this to thicken up a little bit more. All right, we're almost there. Got half a cup of cooked chopped bacon. You can use ham or bacon. I just had some pre-cooked bacon in my fridge. I cooked a whole pack on a sheet pan recently. Here comes the egg yolk. So that's my egg yolk. I'm gonna like beat this a little bit because, you know, the thing is gonna cook if I'm not super careful. Let's see what I can do here. This is gonna be a little awkward on camera because I need to whisk it, and I'm gonna like put this really gradually and keep it moving. Because I don't want to just like throw it in and cook the whole thing, you know? We don't want scrambled egg yolks in our potato soup. I'm just doing a really thin stream. You probably can't see because my hand's in the way. Sorry about that. It's just kind of the nature of how I have to hold things. Oh my gosh, do you see how thick that is? Wow. Well, I just splashed some more out. Why am I so enthusiastic? All right, we're gonna scrape that little last bit in, but also gonna move it really fast. Look how that looks, so thick and creamy. You know, and I gotta add pepper and salt. It says to add a lot of pepper. Like pepper, it just brings out the flavor. Put the salt in there, whisk, whisk, whisk. I've just given up. I'm just, you know, making the messes. But I think it, you know, I just have to let everything kind of heat through, but I think it looks thick and delicious and just about ready to taste. All right, I've got my bowl of soup here. I'm holding it with one of my hand-knit dishcloths that I made when I was recovering from hip surgery, which have quickly become my favorite. I actually like these so much better than any of the dishcloths that I already owned from like stores. But anyway, this is super like rich and thick looking, and it was pretty fast to put together. It took me longer to cook the potatoes than it did to assemble all of this, which is another, you know, reason I'm thinking if you want this to go in even faster, it might work with frozen and thawed hash browns or canned potatoes. I always forget about canned potatoes, but people do like to use those, like cooked canned potatoes. They like to use them for making homemade hash browns or like breakfast potatoes and stuff because they're already like halfway done, right? Then you just have to fry them kind of. Okay, it's still so hot. I'm trying to let it cool, but I really want to taste it. It looks like it's gonna have a very good texture, not completely smooth because of the little bits of potato. That's good. And it's definitely like an old-fashioned potato soup. I added a lot of pepper because it said extra pepper brings out the taste. Yes, it does. It's very flavorful without being like super cheesy. There's no cheese in it, obviously. And it really just took some very simple things. I pretty much always have potatoes and onions on hand because they last a long time. You can make a lot of things with them, including this soup. The rest of it is just like mostly stuff I also have on hand, you know, flour, milk. I happen to have some cooked bacon. You can use ham. This would be great for like leftover ham too. Whoops. Sometimes things happen when I'm trying my food on camera. Anyway, I think this is a really good sort of old-fashioned potato soup. Doesn't take that long to make and so good on a cold day. I'm gonna try out this cheddar spinach pie, which promises to be a tasty time saver. And frankly, I could use one today. I am a little bit tired today, so something pretty simple. It looks pretty simple to put together. I like all of these things. Let's hope that it turns out well. So I'm preheating my oven. Actually, I believe, yes, it is preheated to 350 degrees. And I have 4 eggs here. I'd let these come to room temp. So I'm gonna beat these eggs in this bowl. It's 4 of them. Did I say that? See, I'm tired today. I don't even remember what I said 30 seconds ago. Now, it says this is from the vegetables and side dishes section of the cookbook. I think you could make this into like a meatless main dish or a breakfast or something. I'm thinking like maybe even a breakfast prep if it turns out well. All right, I'm just gonna break these up a bit. I think that's sufficient. I'm gonna add 1 cup of milk to these. Half a teaspoon of salt, and it says a little bit of pepper, a dash of pepper. Well, I'm gonna set this aside because I have to bring out my cheese. This is 2 cups of sharp cheddar cheese. This is like an aged sharp cheddar that I had in my fridge. I'm gonna add my 2 tablespoons of flour and mix that in per the recipe. We're going per the recipe. We got that set aside too. And now I need to add this to my eggs. I opted for Cinderella bowls today because the little things on the sides, they're pour spouts. I've said it before, but maybe you're new here. Ooh. We're gonna mix that in too. My spinach, one moment I have it in the fridge. You have to cook this according to package directions, so I was kind of like letting it cool off a little bit. This is 10 ounces of frozen spinach that I cooked and I drained very well. So, you know, cheese, egg, spinach, all seems pretty delicious to me. I've made some other spinach pies on this channel. I think there was one with maybe like cottage cheese in it that was very good. This doesn't have cottage cheese. It does have a good amount of spinach, a good amount of cheese in it, so I think it's gonna taste pretty good. I have a greased pie plate here. It says 9 inches. I think mine's just maybe like a little bit over that. What do you say? 9.5. Mine's just slightly larger. So I just buttered it and I'm gonna pour this in. Okay, I'm gonna just spread this out a bit. I wanna make sure my spinach isn't like all in one big pile in the middle. I wanna make sure it's a little bit evenly distributed. Sometimes when I have a pie dish or like a low casserole dish that's full of liquid, I'll put it on a sheet pan just so it's easier. You know, you're not like, whoa, trying to get it in the oven. I don't know, this doesn't seem too liquidy. I think I can manage it. Here is what we have. I need to put this in the oven and bake it at 350 degrees for 40 minutes. I'll update you if there's a change time-wise though. Looking toasty, looking tasty. This can probably come out about 35 minutes in, at least for me. It got very brown. I even like kind of poked a knife in there. It is done. You know, I was starting to like smell it cooking, I guess, like the toastiness. So I didn't want to overcook it, you know? Did I let this sit long enough? Has it cooled down enough? Probably not. I never do, right? But this is supposed to make 8 servings. So I'm going to cut it into like wedges here. I'm not going to say they're going to be like the most perfect looking things. Get this excess spinach off. There's quite a bit of spinach in here. So it's getting a little bit caught on the knife. I didn't get a fork. I'm not eating this with my bare hands either. Let's go this one. All right, it's coming out pretty nice. I buttered the dish really well, so that helps, I'm sure. It smells cheesy and spinachy. Let's just get a little bite to start. Oh yeah, the sharp cheese, very good. Yeah, I think the sharp cheddar cheese adds a lot of flavor because if you look through the ingredients, there's not a lot of extra seasonings. It's really just salt and pepper. I was thinking about maybe putting a few dashes of hot sauce, but I wanted to try this as is. This could definitely be a very good meatless main dish. We have Lent is coming up soon. I mean, growing up, we usually did fish fries on Fridays, but if you need some ideas for like a meatless dinner, this could be a good one. Actually, I'm gonna probably eat a lot of this for breakfast. I think this could be really delicious in the mornings. I'll see how it reheats too, but I really like this one. And it has a lot of spinach in it. So it's like a lot of good veggies in this one too. It is snowing a little bit, so it's a good day for some baking. So I thought I would give these favorite apple cookies a try. Now I've had applesauce cookies, but these cookies have actual pieces of chopped up apple. I ended up with 2 different kinds of apple because that's what I had on hand. So I'm going with 2 Granny Smith apples, and then I believe one is like a Honey Crisp or something. And I've already peeled and diced those up. I'm currently preheating my oven to 350 degrees. Blend margarine or butter, I'm using butter, brown sugar, honey, egg, and water until smooth. Okay. So I have 3 tablespoons of soft butter, maybe. Oh, it's soft, it's soft. I softened this in my laundry room. Maybe I've mentioned this before. My laundry room is a small warm room. I like to use it for softening butter. Like I'll put the little dish of butter in there. And I also like to use it if I'm making like a yeast dough. I'll use it for like my proofing room. Give it a try if your laundry room is small and warm. I have half a cup of brown sugar here that I measured a little earlier, so it did, there we go. Now it's crumbling. A 1/4 cup of honey. I oiled this measuring cup, so it should Yeah, most of it's coming out. I'll help it along. I'm gonna start with this first, and then I will add the egg and the water. Got a nice start with that. Sometimes I just like to combine the butter and the sugar a little bit before I don't want to put every single thing in here and then mix it. It's just not how I like to do things. So I have 1 egg here, and I let this egg come to room temperature. Let's see, 1 tablespoon of water. So I'm gonna mix that all together now until it is smooth. Nice and smooth right here. I'm just gonna set this aside because I need to prepare my dry ingredients. So dry ingredients, I have 1.5 cups of rolled oats. I have 1/2 cup of flour, and it's like I moved that whole tray and I moved my baking soda and salt, and it says to gradually add the dry ingredients to this mixture. I'm gonna combine the dry ingredients first, just kind of whisk them together a little bit. So then we don't have like a pocket of flour and a pocket of this and whatever. Very oat heavy recipe. Only 1/2 cup of flour and 3 times the amount of old-fashioned rolled oats. I am gonna start to add my dry ingredients gradually. I'm gonna start with my hand mixer, but by the end of it, I'm probably just gonna use a spatula. So we'll do a little bit here. Make sure, I'm gonna just combine the rest of the way with a big spatula. I wanna make sure there's no hidden dry ingredients at the bottom. Right now, this looks like peanut butter and oatmeal. What do we have next? It says, stir in apples, walnuts, and dates. I'm choosing to leave out the walnuts. We're gonna see how it goes. I have 3 peeled and diced apples here. And then I have 3/4 of a cup of chopped dates here. I just took whole pitted dates and chopped them small. This cookie dough is very apple forward. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of cookie dough in between the apples. It did say 3 apples, yeah. 3 medium apples peeled and chopped. Okay. And they also wanted you to put walnuts in this. That is my oven. Oh gosh, I am like very interested. Wow. I just don't know about this. You're supposed to bake these on greased baking sheets. I'm just using a baking mat, so I don't have to do that. It says to drop by heaping tablespoonfuls onto greased baking sheet, cookie sheet. Bake at 350 for 12 to 15 minutes. Okay, so to me, this is looking like a very strange apple salad. Like chunks of apple with some dates that kind of look like raisins, loosely held together by oatmeal. I'm just not 100% sure, but we're gonna trust and we're gonna give it a try. I'm not gonna do a ton. I don't know how much these are even gonna spread, if at all. We'll do 5. We'll do 5. And yeah, I will get back to you. We'll see if this works. Okay, I am gonna be honest here. I'm not super enthusiastic about how these turned out, so let's have a chat about it. And I could kind of feel it heading in this direction as I was mixing the ingredients. So this is sort of a more final product. I had to make some tweaks, some changes, but as I was mixing all of the ingredients, something just felt really off about the proportions to me. You know, not a lot of flour, not a lot of butter, a lot of apples. Yeah, I don't know. It felt a little different. I don't always I'm not gonna discount a recipe that feels a little different because I make a lot of recipes that feel a little different and sometimes they turn out fantastic. But I've made enough cookies and baked goods throughout my life where I was like, this is definitely I don't know, this is not what I expected. I said I made some tweaks. Originally, I left the nuts out for this, after the first batch that I baked, I was like, I'm gonna try to add some chopped nuts back in here. Just, I don't know, maybe that'll help them. Because they kind of they're barely making it. They're barely holding it together. Like a lot of us are barely holding it together these days. So maybe these cookies are appropriate. So this is a batch where I added chopped nuts and I increased the bake time by a few minutes. It helped a little bit. It helped a little bit. I have already tasted these because I was trying to figure out what to do here. I also refrigerated the cookie dough. Between scooping, I tried to firm it up a little bit. It's a very weird cookie. So, you know, it tastes okay, but I'm not super excited about them. I don't know, they might be up your alley, but frankly, I think there's probably better apple cookie recipes, apple oatmeal cookie recipes out there. You know, the texture's a little funky. It's kind of like it can't decide what it wants to be. I don't know. They're kind of weird and crumbly. I don't know that you can call these cookies exactly. I just don't think I'm gonna make them again. I don't know. You know, they don't taste bad. For me, it's entirely a texture thing. I just think you should select like a different cookie recipe than this. And I have made the changes, I've made the tweaks. Here's what I did. Added the nuts back in, increased the bake time, refrigerated the dough. Cooling them. It says in the recipe to cool them on wire racks. You cannot move these off of the cookie sheets right away. It makes you think that you can. It's like, you gotta cool these on wire racks. You gotta cool them on the sheets for a few minutes before you move them. This was the best thing for me to remove them. It's this like little dessert server with a really sharp edge. I have different ones that I use for cookies, but those were just not cutting it. So these are just too fussy for me. They're too fussy for just being okay taste-wise. You're welcome to fuss with them, but I have done fussed all I'm gonna fuss. This recipe has taken me quite some time. I don't know, folks. Recipes from Minnesota with Love was originally published in 1981. It was written by Betty Malisau. I don't know if I'm saying Betty's name correctly. And I really couldn't find a lot on this author other than what's printed on the back of the book. It's got the lovely comb binding. It has a bit of a community cookbook feel, even though it has a single author. It's not like people sent their contributions in like some of the other types of cookbooks that are bound in this way. I believe there is at least one sequel to this book. I've seen like a second book to this. I don't have it. It's out there. You know, we've got some like charming sort of hand-drawn illustrations in here. And at the top of a lot of the pages, we've got like some little facts about Minnesota or even some pieces of advice. This one says, nothing scares the chill from a person's bones like a good hot soup. You know, I tend to agree. Things that warm you up, you know, make you feel a little bit cozy in this cold, cold weather we're having. I really like the introductory pages to each chapter. That's this like cabinet, and then it has the title sort of drawn in there as well. As I mentioned, a lot of these recipes were familiar to me, you know, things that I would have grown up eating or grown up having at like potlucks and things like that, at gatherings. Good, cozy food. That's what I would say about a lot of the things in here. I actually love this drawing of a waffle maker. I think it's very good. Like if you were playing Pictionary or something like that would be a good drawing of a waffle maker. But anyway, I want to chat about the recipes because I do have a lot of things to say. So I started off with German potato soup. And this was so similar to the potato soup that I grew up with. You know, a lot of the potato soups now, they're like loaded baked potato with cheese and chives and bacon, and those are all so delicious. But this is more straightforward, I think, than that. It's a creamy potato soup, no cheese or anything, but it does have a lot of flavor even without all of that stuff. You know, and there's bacon in it. You know, you can use ham or bacon, so that salty, smoky flavor does give it a boost. This one was super easy to make. It was pretty quick to make too. I think it could be made even more quickly if you already had cooked potatoes, or potentially, I'm not gonna like say that I've tried this, so not exactly sure how it would come out. Potentially you could use shredded hash browns, like frozen hash brown potatoes that you've thawed. I don't know. If you try it with those, please let me know how it turns out. Simple ingredients, but still very flavorful in its simplicity. And I think it's just a good solid potato soup recipe. Like if you're looking for just like a basic potato soup, this is a really good one. My second recipe was cheddar spinach pie. Okay, this was delicious. Another really simple, pretty fast to put together dish, but just really tasty. And it stayed very moist. Like I did end up reheating this. I still have, I think, one portion left. I've been having it for breakfast. And it didn't dry out. Sometimes egg dishes, like egg bakes and things, they can tend to dry out a little bit, but this one wasn't like that at all. I think the proportions of egg to milk, and then the spinach, of course, even though I squeezed out most of the moisture, it does retain some of that. I think it helps kind of like keep it that way, you know, not dried out at all. The recommended cheese in the recipe is sharp cheddar, and I support that. I think you could probably change the cheese, but it's very important, in my opinion, to use something that's very flavorful, like a sharp cheddar. The one I used, it's not exactly this, but if you have a Trader Joe's and you have, you've ever tried the unexpected cheddar cheese, it's kind of like that. It's pretty sharp. It just has a big punch of flavor to it. If you wanted to use like pepper jack, that could be really good, but I would like maybe do like half pepper jack and half like other sharp something or other. Just something super flavorful because there's not a lot of seasoning. That's where it gets a lot of its flavor. I thought this was absolutely great for breakfast. I will be making this again if I want to have sort of a breakfast prep on hand, something that I can quickly heat up in the microwave. The other thing I really loved about it is the spinach. I love recipes for breakfast that incorporate vegetables. It's just like another way that you can get more veggies in your day. I always feel a little bit better when I have all of my vegetables, you know? So this was like pretty packed with spinach, and it was just frozen spinach. So that's like a really easy thing. I had the steam in bag kind of spinach, so that made it even quicker. Just throw it in the microwave according to package directions, drain it, squeeze the moisture out, and then add it to this mixture. It will go on my list as like a to make again for sure. And that brings us to favorite apple cookies. And this is the recipe I want to spend the most time on. This was not my favorite. And if you can believe it, these actually got worse after I filmed. I got a lot to say here, folks. I even took a lot of notes just so I wouldn't forget anything. You saw what I went through mixing them and baking them. Like out of the oven, I didn't actually say this, but here's like what I was thinking. When they came out of the oven after all of my little like fixes, they were kind of like granola, but like loosely associated granola. They still like didn't hold together super well. They tasted just okay. They were just like meh. The recipe, it's not ideal. It doesn't really work very well. So, and I'm saying as written, not like, oh, do this, change that, whatever. I'm saying the recipe as written is not good. And I don't love to say that about recipes, but I mean, I pretty thoroughly tested this one. Just to go over again what I did, I wrote it all down. So I used 3 apples. The recipe recommends 3 medium apples, not the big grocery store, like individual apples. They were from like a bag of what I would call lunchbox sized apples. If you have those, they're usually pretty small, but I used 3 like the recipe said. After that first batch came out of the oven, I did add the chopped nuts back to the recipe. I'd originally left them out and I'm like, maybe that was a mistake. You know, maybe this is an integral part of holding all of this together. So I added chopped nuts back into the equation and proceeded to bake them. They did not really help. I increased the bake time. I believe the bake time on this recipe was 12 to 15 minutes. I tried like 18 minutes, you know, and I didn't want to go much more than that because they were getting quite brown. I thought maybe they just need more time to solidify in the oven. It didn't work super well. And I also tested out refrigerating the cookie dough, if you can call it cookie dough, just to firm it up a little bit, you know, when you scoop it so it wouldn't kind of like disintegrate. No, that did not help either. They ended up being just okay, and I was like, I'll eat these, it'll be okay. They're kind of like granola, they'll be fine. No, they were not fine. It got much worse. And I kind of feared that this would happen, but the moisture in the apples made it so that the next day, after I'd stored the cookies, they just disintegrated. The apples have far too much like moisture and water in them to make this work. Unless you're gonna just like eat them instantly, just make granola. Just make granola and use dried apples or something. Don't use like fresh apples. The recipe, and I have to say this again, I need you to look into my eyes. I need you to hold my hands, and I need you to really listen to me. This recipe, as it is written, does not work. And you can make changes. And I'm saying this because, you know, I know people are maybe thinking, well, if you did this or you do that or you try this, you can make all of these changes. You can add more flour, you can do something to the oats, you can whatever. You can do all of those things. But when you make too many changes, like when you make a change to every ingredient in a recipe, it becomes a different recipe. So what I'm saying to you, my audience, is that this recipe, as it appears in this book, does not work. It just needs too many changes to make it into something that is edible. I think there are just too many other good recipes out there for apple and oatmeal cookies. You just don't need to make this one. I mean, you just don't. That's how I feel about it. So have you tried any of these recipes? Did you grow up eating them? Are they some of your favorites? I hope those apple cookies aren't your favorite and I just totally insulted you. But I'd love to hear about that, so please leave me a comment. I'd like to say a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to join us over there, I'll have a link in the description so that you can do that. Be sure to look out for each other, take care of each other, send some love to Minnesota, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.